The lore has it that when Nessa is trying to fix Sirius, I don't know what happened, Nessa thinks that Sirius kids are too outdated even though she's OP, so she decided to quote-unquote remodel Sirius. Unlike factor units that went through enlightenment, the original Sirius and Rubius are the exact same Sirius, hence why their animations are the same. Starting off, let's take a look into her base stats real quick. Rubius has both decent base HP and defense, which is great for a striker since normally they are squishy. Her speed is 10 flat number lower than the original Sirius. Definitely not slow but not that fast either. And thankfully she has a decent base attack at 1.3k attack that can be increased further with her Yui. Moving to her skills, what makes her special would be her S2, the special quote-unquote buff that comes from her S3, and her ability to ignore the elemental disadvantage when she's attacking, as long as she has either of the guaranteed dodge buff or the light Sirius buff. Her S2 dodge passive is pretty similar to Timmy's dodge passive, except Ruby's one is in the form of buff. At the start of the battle, Timmy can get herself a guaranteed dodge, and every 2 turns, she has a 75% to 100% chance at max skill upgrade to dodge the next attack, and Rubius is about the same. At the start of the battle, she can get herself a guaranteed dodge buff and 75% to 100% guaranteed dodge buff chance at the end of her turn. The only difference between the two are the cooldown, and to upgrade Rubius' dodge chance, you need her to be at R3. Next, if any ally including Rubius dodges an attack, grants all allies a C damage buff for 1 turn, and if her S2 isn't in cooldown, she will counterattack with her S2. If she uses her S2 as a counterattack, then she will boost her own AP by 20% and the skill will be put in cooldown. Her S2 also has a 75% to 100% chance to drop a death break for 2 turns, which is great. One thing you need to keep in mind is that a unit with a skill that can be counterattacked, such as Kagari, Isabel, Rela, etc., cannot trigger Rubius' S2 attack skill. However, it still activates the on deflect buff. Moving to her S3, it is a pretty okay SD damage, but the cool part is the light Sirius buff. Her S3 grants all allies a light Sirius buff which can increase their dodge chance by 15%. This buff can be dispelled and isn't considered as a buff, so it can be stolen by units like Clonicera, Shinobu, and etc. As for her S1, it is just your usual basic attack, but it has a chance to inflict an attack drop and can grant herself an attack buff. With her Yui, her S3 grants herself a speed and penetration buff for 2 turns, and many other cool stuff that you can get there, so make sure to upgrade her Yui. As for her build, you only want her to be as fast as possible, so you just need to go pure speedy DPS with immunity for PvP. As for PvE, you need to use Invasion set on her, as well as having around 100% status accuracy.